Greetings, this is Tanaka Ranichindum representing Golden Cloud Network, and we're here to share knowledge and experience with you. Today we're going to be talking about POTRAZ. What is POTRAZ and why does POTRAZ exist? So POTRAZ is an acronym for the Postal and Telecommunications Regulatory Authority of Zimbabwe. And the statement is quite self-explanatory. It's a regulatory body that regulates postal and telecommunication services. Okay, so communication is something that we have relied on as humans for a very long time. The only difference is today communication has been enhanced by technology. With technology that supports our ability to talk to anyone, anywhere, at any time. And there are people that have dedicated their entire lives in developing this technology. And there are people that have seen an opportunity in trading this technology. This is where these service providers come. They come with this technology that we need to support communication. And obviously people are going to use this technology because it makes life easier. The catch is this technology gives these service providers a lot of power because people become so reliant on their technology. People become so reliant on the services that they offer. And this power needs regulation. How many of us can go a day without using our cell phones to make a call? How many? How many of us can go a day without using our computers to send an email? We use this technology for personal and professional reasons on a daily basis, on an hourly basis. Every second of every day, people are using this technology. So this is a lot of power for the service providers of this technology. That is why regulatory bodies such as POTRAZ exist, to make sure that these service providers are kept in check, to maintain order within this communication sector, to be specific, the postal and telecommunications sector. So let's talk more about POTRAZ. Let's talk more about the functions of POTRAZ and its roles and responsibilities. And based on that introduction, it has huge shoes to fill, right? So POTRAZ was first established in February 2001 as a statutory body meant to regulate the communication sector under the Postal and Telecommunications Act. Regulating the communication sector of Zimbabwe comes with the responsibility of overseeing the construction, the development, the operation, and the maintenance of this sector. So POTRAZ is in the front lines handling this business, and it does so in the following ways. Number one, licensing and regulation. Okay, so we've established that, hey, this job is a big deal. So not everyone can really do it. Not that because people don't want to do it. A lot of people may want to do it, but it's hard. It's a hard job to do, and it costs a lot. So for the people who want to play this game, for the people who want to provide these services, they have to apply for a license to POTRAZ. And POTRAZ has a list of guidelines and requirements that it needs in order to grant permission to people or companies who are interested in providing these services. So it does so in this way. So POTRAZ is the body that grants licenses to all service providers that want to trade in the telecommunications sector. Not just the telecommunications sector though. This also applies to the radio sector. This also applies to the courier sector and the postal sector. And without this license, you will never be able to trade freely at scale. So there are different types of licenses, and these licenses can be classified as public licenses and private licenses. There may be people who want to offer these services at a private level and people who really want to take it on another level at a public level. So let's give some specific examples of the licenses that POTRAZ grants. So example of the license number one is the network facilities license. Many of us may have seen the towers that exist in our neighborhoods, in our residential neighborhoods, and sometimes in central areas. And some of us have also seen people digging tunnels so that they can put certain cables that support internet connection. So these are the items, or these are the equipment or infrastructure that falls under the network facilities license. In order to erect that network tower, in order to provide or dig and put those cables, those network cables, you need a license from POTRAZ. And because this is the infrastructure that will support the services that you want to provide. You cannot make a phone call without those towers. You cannot access your internet without those cables. So the first thing that you need if you want to play this telecommunications game is this network facilities license, so that you can install the infrastructure that is necessary for you to provide these services. After you install that infrastructure, it's not over yet. You need another license, which is known as the network services license. Once you have the infrastructure in place, you're now able to provide these services, right? You now need this network services license, which allows you to give people access to this infrastructure. But there's a third option though. This option allows, it's called the Unified Telecommunication Services License. It allows you to do the mentioned activities under one license. So those are the examples of the common licenses. We also have licenses such as the Application Services License, the International Gateway Services License. We will not go deep into those licenses, but let's just touch on Application Services License. You have an application, you're a developer, you're a software developer. You have developed your application. In order to give people access to that application, you need to apply for a license to POTRAZ so that you can operate your application. But let's move on. We still have a lot to talk about. Before we move on, so these licenses doesn't just apply to the telecommunications sector, it also applies to the postal services. So we're talking about the people such as FedEx, we're talking to people such as the Cheetah, we're talking to people such as Swift. They also are regulated under POTRAZ, right? So let's move on. Consumer protection. So POTRAZ also manages the quality of the services offered by the operators to ensure that consumers are not taken advantage of and to ensure that the consumers get the best possible services. So it's easy. If you're in a position of power like that, it's easy for you to take advantage of people. You know that there are very few people that are offering these services, and you start slacking. The services that you're providing become poor. The speed of your internet is slow. The connection is breaking all the time. Your radio network has a lot of interferences. So that is unacceptable. That is why POTRAZ is there, to make sure that consumers are protected by getting the best possible services. So how does POTRAZ do this? So POTRAZ fulfills this responsibility by setting standards of operations which measure the performance of these service providers for the purpose of monitoring and evaluation. For example, they make sure that your internet is going at a certain speed, which is the minimum accepted speed. If your internet isn't going faster than this set standard, then hey, you have problems with POTRAZ. And this is something that is very admirable that POTRAZ does for us, because if we didn't have POTRAZ to stand for us in these issues, it would be ugly, right? So another example is through equipment type approval. So some of this equipment may emit dangerous radiation that can be harmful to the environment and to us. So POTRAZ assesses each equipment that is installed to make sure that it's safe for use and it does not harm its environment, right? So that's function, that we conclude that function. Moving on to another function. So POTRAZ also acts as authority that manages policy and strategy. So they enforce measures and guidelines that ensure fair and competitive trade and world-class adoption of products and services in the postal and telecommunications sector. So to put this in simple terms, POTRAZ is like the referee or the umpire in the telecommunications and postal game, to make sure that it is fair, to make sure that Econet and Net1 are competing fairly on an even playing field, to make sure that Utande and Zo are playing at an even playing field, to make sure that Starlink is incorporated in the national telecommunications world or sector in a fair way. So it does so by enforcing certain policies that have to be adhered to. So this is another function of POTRAZ. And this is also why POTRAZ has the power to allocate radio frequency spectrum in Zimbabwe. It falls under this policy function of POTRAZ. So moving on, another critical function of POTRAZ is infrastructure development. POTRAZ manages a fund. This fund is called the Universal Service Fund. So this fund is allocated to and managed by POTRAZ for the purpose of maintaining high standards of quality in the provision of postal and telecommunication services in the country, to ensure that needy persons or neglected areas also gain access to these services. For example, something that is popular in the rural areas is radio. POTRAZ makes sure that, hey, we know that these people cannot afford certain high-class internet services that allow them to stay informed. So, hey, let's make sure that they have good radio signal. This is a responsibility of POTRAZ, and they've been doing so. And they've been doing so through certain funds, such as the Universal Service Fund, that they get from whoever gives them that fund to make sure that this happens. So this fund also caters for training and research directed to this cause. So POTRAZ also receives support from other organizations such as Smart Africa, Human Resources Development for Africa, and more. The final function of POTRAZ is cybersecurity. So POTRAZ promotes cybersecurity and data protection under national laws. So POTRAZ is responsible for attending to consumer rights, and we're just going to list some of these consumer rights. Number one, the right to choose, the right of choice, the right to choice, I mean. You can choose if you want to use Telecel or Net1, no one will force you. The right to disclosure, to make sure that the service providers are disclosing all the information that is necessary to make this choice, for example, such as the prices, services offered, terms and conditions, and more. The right to access high quality services. Service providers must publish information about initial supply times, etc. The right to accurate bills, the right to privacy, the right to protection against market abuse, e.g., excessive pricing, discriminatory pricing, misleading advertising, and more, and the right to responsive regulatory body. So in a nutshell, this is POTRAZ. Whew, that's a lot. POTRAZ has a lot on its shoulders, and it is doing a lot. And it is run by a board of directors who ensure that all these functions and responsibilities are fulfilled. So let's end here. A lot has been said and a lot is to be digested. Thank you so much for your time. Tanagarwa Nishinom signing out. Like, subscribe, comment.